Hello, welcome in to my endgame Void Omnioculous Hunter build. This is the absolute best Void Hunter build for Grandmasters and making your team invincible and invisible in the hardest content in Destiny 2. In this build, you can go invisible literally forever if you have two teammates with you. This has been my main go-to build for most of the Grandmasters I have done. It is a support build in the fact that it can make your whole team invisible and also gives them a lot of resistance while invisible, and you can continuously do this over and over again. We're building this around the Omnioculous. With the perk Beyond the Veil, you gain a second smoke bomb charge and have damage resistance while invisible. When you make an ally invisible, they gain damage resistance while invisible, and you gain melee energy. What this doesn't say is how much melee energy. You actually, for each ally you make invisible, you get 50% of your melee back. So in Grandmasters, it's teams of 3. You have 2 teammates with you. You make both of them invisible. You get your full melee recovered. Therefore, as soon as your allies pop out of being invisible, you can make them invisible again and get your melee back instantly. Let's get into the subclass. My choice is Mobius Quiver for ultimate for the damage you can do. It shoots out 2 arrows that deal massive damage, and it does them pretty quick, and then you can get back to going invisible, keeping your teammates alive. The other option would be Deadfall. This is just in case there's a ton of ads or a long damage phase for the boss and you need a lot of weaken and suppression for a long time, because Deadfall does last longer than Mobius Quiver, but for the most part, I like Mobius Quiver. One tip for Grandmaster Nightfalls: stop jumping when you shoot your ultimate. If you jump up in the air and shoot your ultimate, you'll be hanging up there in the air and die immediately. Hunters, please stop jumping while you ult. For abilities, I like Gambler's Dodge to get back your Snare Bomb and your Trapper's Ambush quick fall. This all plays together to continuously have that invis, continuously give your team resistance buff, be able to get reses when you need them. Having your Snare Bomb is very important. For Grenade, there's a couple choices here. I like Vortex Grenade for how long it lasts and the amount of damage it does, and it pulls out enemies in together so you can kill them all at the same time. Scatter Grenades are technically more damage to a single target if you hit them with it. Suppressor Grenades can be good to just lock down rooms. Really, all the Void Grenades are decent, but Vortex is my choice. And for the aspects, Trapper's Ambush, activate Quickfall to spend your melee charge and dive to the ground, creating a large smoke cloud on impact, which then dissipates. Targets caught in the cloud are weakened, and allies are made invisible. Your smoke bomb makes nearby allies invisible and attaches to nearby surfaces or targets. This is a big part of this build. You use your Snare Bomb to make your allies invisible, and then you can stay invisible, just continually making your allies invisible over and over with Omnioculous. You get 2 chances with the Snare Bomb, and if you mess up, you can get your Snare Bomb back. With Gambler's Dodge, you also go invisible, so you can just continually stay invisible. All this plays so well together. It is really cohesive, and I love it. For the fragments, Echo of Persistence to make your invisibility last a little bit longer. Also, your Devour and Overshields can last longer as well, minus to mobility. Echo of Starvation for Devour buff on orb pickup. This is huge. It gives you full health when you pick up an orb, and then each time you get a kill, it resets this Devour buff and gets full health back. It can be a little bit tricky to keep Devour up in a Grandmaster setting, but it does come in clutch when you do have it. Then finally, Echo of Obscurity, finisher final blows grant invisibility. This just continues to play into the invisibility part of the build, and you have so many different ways to go invisible and keep your resistance up from being invisible. If you're still with me, I would ask you to please consider subscribing to this channel. I would really appreciate it. Now that we know the subclass and the exotic, we can pick our armor, and I like to do that with d2armorpicker.com. If you don't know d2armorpicker.com, I highly suggest that you check it out. It can really help you get your stats to where you want them. Focus first on resilience, especially in a GM setting. Things sit so hard that you absolutely need to have the most resistance possible. This gives a 30% damage reduction. 100 resilience is a must. After that, focus on strength. Get this as high as possible. I wish I could have it at 100, but it's at 90 right now. That's just to get that smoke bomb back and be able to make your team invisible over and over and over. And then lastly, focus on mobility. Getting this around 70 or higher is my preferred spot. And then if you have any extra, you can put it in discipline, but it's not a huge deal. Recovery, discipline, and intellect aren't a huge part of this build, but any stats will help. So get those as high as you can too. For mods, Heavy Ammo Finder and Heavy Ammo Scout. Heavy Ammo Scout is a really big deal in Grandmasters. you really need to watch your heavy ammo economy with you and your teammates, because this can make or break a boss fight or a crowded room, things like that. You really need to have a heavy ammo scout. Void Siphon, because we use mostly void weapons for this build. If it's not a void surge, you could get away with using non-void weapons. I like it for this build. Void Loader on the arms. Font of Focus and Focusing Strike grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a melee. So you actually will be causing a lot of damage, even though it's not very much damage, but you will be causing damage multiple times with your quick fall. And this will just cause you to get your class ability dodge back faster, and which will cause you to get your melee back faster. On the chest, whichever resistance mod that the threat is, so if it's a solar threat, a solar mod. If it's a void threat, void mod, whatever that is. I like to use void reserves for my heavy. Charged up, increase the maximum number of stacks of armor charge you can carry by 1. This helps your armor charges last longer because you can carry more. And then on the legs, 2 void surge mods to buff our void weapons. If we happen to not be using void weapons, we would switch this to whatever our energy and heavy are. Stacks on stacks, picking up an orb of power grants you 1 additional armor charge. This plays into charged up. You can pick up more charges and then they last longer. And for the cloak, have Reaper to, after your dodge, your next kill will spawn an orb of power, which plays into giving you more armor charges. And then empowered finisher final blows grants you an armor charge as well. This just kind of all plays together. You're doing a lot of finishes with this build to stay invisible for longer. And speaking of that, proximity ward, gain a powerful overshield while performing your finisher. This just helps you stay alive in those clutch finishing situations, maybe finishing a champion, and all the other ads focus on you, but you get a strong overshield while you're doing that. And then once you finish the finisher, your overshield goes away, but now you're invisible from your fragment. Then for the Ascendant Scepter, I like to use Anti-Barrier Pulse, Unstoppable Scout, Overload Auto SMG. Authorize void mods to keep the cost of these down. Authorize grenade mods to also keep the cost of grenade mods down. Volatile flow is really important. Picking up an orb grants your void weapons volatile rounds. Shatter orbs. The first time you break a combatant's shield, you create an orb of power. If you break the shield with a matching damage type, this can create ridiculous amounts of orbs. Bricks from Beyond. Defeating a powerful combatant with a void weapon has a chance to generate heavy ammo for you and your teams. This plays into just keeping that heavy ammo economy up and being able to get through GMs quicker. Then when I'm using my Retrofit Escapade, I like to use these. Defiant Armory greatly improve the benefits provided by all these things, but ambush origin traits on your Retrofit Escapade. And also Origin Hones, weapons with ambush origin trait, are always overcharged when that modifier is active. And then Prismatic Transfer, when you cast your super, each member of your fire team with a subclass damage type different than yours gains a bonus to weapons damage. This can be good depending on the makeup of your team and depending on what other buffs you have active. This can get overridden by a lot of other buffs that are better than it, but just in case you don't have any other buffs when you pop your super, then it can give your teammates some extra damage. Finally, let's go over the weapon. In Grandmasters, it's really dependent on what champions there are. Right now, I'm set up for Unstoppable with my Riptide, with the Shatter of Chill Clip will take out Unstoppables. Also, the slow of the first shot of Chill Clip will stun overloads, and then my Graviton Lance Pulse Rifle will take out barriers. I really like this setup for really mostly for barrier and unstoppable champion setups. And then depending on the Grandmaster, if I'm able to use a Retrofit Escapade, I will, but sometimes we got to use rockets to just burst down the boss faster, so then I'll switch to a rocket instead. And then if it happens to be unstoppable and overload, I will switch out my Graviton Lance to a Lemon Arc, then I have unstoppable and overload. If it's all three, then I will work out with my team the best way to go about that, but these two weapons will take out all three champions with Chill Clip and a Pulse. And then sometimes I need to run Galahorn, and so I will run a Riptide for Unstoppables, or maybe possibly even a Disorienting Grenade, and then a Vouchsafe for Unstoppables instead, and a Galahorn. And if I am running Galahorn, I will switch at least one of my surges to be solar, but I'll have to reset my Scepter, probably take out Prismatic Transfer and put in Authorized Mod Solar, so it'll be cheaper so I can do that. And there you have it. My Omnioculous Hunter build. Probably the safest thing to take into Grandmaster Nightfalls. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.